lads and lovelies. Captain Edward von Arkham here, coming to you from on board the MHS Hysteria. I have something special for you today, for this log marks the first of a feature I call Madman of the Month. Once a month, every month, I shall pay homage to a fellow madman or woman whose spark of insanity has helped craft the course of history. That is, if I can keep track of the months. Time travel does make it rather tricky. This month I honor a fellow madman and a fellow Edward, namely Edward Lear. Author, artist, poet, and certified madman. First things first, what a brilliant beard is that?
You could fit a bird's nest in there.
Come to think of it, I wouldn't put it past him. He was a smashing fellow, lovely to be around, made a rather tasty cup of tea. I visited him several times throughout his life. We got on famously, but no surprise there. And with a name like Edward Lear, he had to be bonkers. And that was his actual born name. Many thought it to be a pseudonym and often asked him if it was. So often, in fact, that he drew and published a cheeky cartoon depicting his usual method of proving his name.
Showing them the name tag on his hat.
Hat-based identification. I could get on board with that. Although he did often introduce himself by his alias. Mr. Ababica Cratapacono Prisicalo Catafello Abalagorabilis Abaloratino Fashfith. Or alternately, Chacanonton the Kosovex Dossi Fossi Sini Tomantella Coronilla Polentilla Battledore and Chucklecock Derry Down Derry Dumps, for short. Like all true madmen, his madness began at a young age. In his youth, the poor fellow suffered from epilepsy, a malady which in the early 19th century was thought to stem from demonic possession. The seizures drove him into a deep state of depression, which he referred to as the morbids. But like all great madmen, he tempered his madness through craft. His craft? Poetry. His poetic style? Gibberish. Most who read his work at the time couldn't make heads or tails of it, but to those whom to him were like-minded, it was verse of beauty. And to honor him, I recite now a poem he sent me via the chronograph, entitled The Crangle Wangle's Hat. First some ambiance. There we are. On top of the crumpety tree, the Crangle Wangle sat, but his face you could not see on account of his big top hat. For his hat was 102 feet wide, with ribbons and bibbins on every side, and bells and buttons and loops and lace, so that nobody ever could see the face of the Crangle Wangle Queen. The Crangle Wangle said to himself on the crumpety tree, "Jam and jelly and bread are indeed the best food for me. But the longer I live on this crumpety tree, the plainer that ever it seems to me that very few people come this way, and that life on the whole is far from gay," said the Crangle Wangle Queen. But there then came to the crumpety tree Mr. and Mrs. Canary, and they said, "Did you ever see any spot so charmingly airy? May we build a nest on your lovely hat, Mr. Crangle Wangle? Grant us that. Oh, please let us come and build a nest of whatever materials suit you best, Mr. Crangle Wangle Quee." And besides, to the crumpety tree came the stork, the duck, the owl, the snail, and the bumblebee, the frog, and the fimble fowl. The fimble fowl with a corkscrew leg, and all of them said, "We humbly beg, we may build our homes on your lovely hat, Mr. Crangle Wangle. Grant us that, Mr. Crangle Wangle Quee." And the golden grouse came there, and the pobble who has no toes, and the small Olympian bear, and the dong with the luminous nose, and the blue baboon who played the flute, and the orient calf from the land of Toot, and the attery sash and the bisky bat, all came and built on the lovely hat of the Crangle Wangle Quee. And the Crangle Wangle said to himself on the crumpety tree, when all these creatures move about, what wonderful noise there'll be! And at night by the light of the mulberry moon, they danced to the flute of the blue baboon on the broad green leaves of the crumpety tree, and all were as happy could be, with the Crangle Wangle Quee, with the Crangle Wangle Quee. Post-1888, Lear lies buried in the Fosse Cemetery in San Remo. On his headstone is written, "All things fair, with such a pencil, such a pen, you shadow forth to distant men. I read and felt that I was there." From a letter written to him by the great Alfred Lord Tennyson. Well, that's all the time for today. I do hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Until next time, stay mad, my ducky wuckies. There was an old man with a beard, who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard."